Rodan is a giant pteranodon kaiju that first appeared in the 1956 Toho film Rodan, and debuted in the Godzilla series in the 1964 film Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Rodan's egg was preserved deep underneath Mount Aso in Kyushu, Japan, for over 200 million years. Radiation from atomic bomb tests in the 1950s affected the creature's egg, causing it to hatch when its cavern was unearthed. The hatchling quickly matured and began terrorizing the skies across the globe, easily outmaneuvering fighter jets and leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. When the monster touched down in Fukuoka and confronted the JSDF, its mate suddenly appeared as well to assist it, and the two Rodans decimated both the city and the JSDF's forces before returning to their nest in Aso. The JSDF enacted a plan to trigger the volcano to erupt while the Rodans were nesting using missiles, and successfully caused both Rodans to be submerged in the molten lava flows. While both Rodans apparently perished, a single Rodan emerged from the crater of Aso 8 years later. Whether it was a surviving Rodan from 1956 or their offspring was unclear, but the creature soon flew to Yokohama, where he encountered Godzilla. Godzilla and Rodan clashed at Fuji, but were interrupted by Mothra, who pleaded with them to end their petty rivalry and help her to defeat the evil space monster King Ghidorah. The monsters eventually agreed, and their combined efforts sent King Ghidorah back into the vacuum of space. In the year 196X, Rodan was hibernating in a cliffside when he was abducted by the Zillions and brought to Planet X alongside Godzilla to fend off King Ghidorah once again, who was now terrorizing Planet X. After the monsters defeated King Ghidorah once again, they were unleashed on Earth alongside King Ghidorah under the control of the Zillions, who actually intended to conquer the Earth. Humanity managed to sever the Zillions' mind control and defeat the invaders, and the now free Rodan and Godzilla fought King Ghidorah once again, tackling him into the ocean before he flew back to outer space. Neither Rodan nor Godzilla surfaced from the ocean after the battle, but both survived and by 1972 were living together on Monster Island. In 197X, nuclear testing in the Aleutian Islands triggered seismic aftershocks that even reached Monster Island, knocking Rodan from his perch and tearing the island apart. At the close of the 20th century, Rodan had relocated to Monsterland with Earth's other monsters. The colossal took over the island and sent its monsters to attack major cities across the globe under their mind control. Rodan attacked Moscow first before raiding Tokyo alongside Godzilla, Mothra, and Manda. Once the crew of the Moonlight SY-3 destroyed the colossal mind control device, Rodan assembled with Earth's other monsters in Aokigahara to assault the aliens' base at Fuji. He then took part in the ensuing battle against King Ghidorah, and after the space monster was killed he was attacked by the fire dragon. Once the colossal were defeated for good, Rodan was returned to Monsterland to live in peace with his fellow monsters. Rodan is a pteranodon that survived in an egg underneath Mount Aso for 200 million years. Radiation from nuclear testing seeped into the cavern containing Rodan's egg, and in combination with rising global temperatures and accumulated volcanic gases caused it to hatch once it was unearthed. The hatchling grew quickly by feeding on meganolin in the cavern before flying out. A second Rodan also appeared around the same time, and mated with the other. It is never clarified exactly how Rodan became gigantic, as characters note that the creature is far larger than any pteranodon on record. While nuclear radiation is believed to be responsible for awakening Rodan, it is never proposed that the radiation was responsible for causing it to reach gigantic size, at least in the Showa series. In 1964, 8 years after the Rodans were seemingly killed in the fires of Aso, the accumulation of volcanic gases in the volcano awakened a Rodan from the volcano's crater. The identity of this Rodan is ambiguous, and it is unclear if it is a surviving Rodan from 1956, or potentially one of their offspring. Mostelina Salno seems to suggest it is a surviving Rodan, as she claims the volcanic gases have resurrected it. In the original Rodan, the two Rodans are depicted as horrific and dangerous creatures who, despite their destructive nature, care deeply for each other and are unwilling to live without the other. In Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, Rodan displays a great deal of personality, openly mocking Godzilla when the latter is covered in Mothra's silk, and shakes his head in an irritated fashion after Godzilla's atomic breath has no effect on him. According to the translation of the monster's conversation by the Shabajan, Rodan agrees with Godzilla's sentiment that he only hates humans because they hate him. Rodan claims he has no obligation to protect human beings and prefers to continue his pointless fight with Godzilla. However, upon seeing Mothra bravely take on King Ghidorah by herself, Rodan joins with Godzilla to battle the extraterrestrial creature. In subsequent films in the Showa series, Rodan is seen as a loyal ally of Godzilla who assists him and the other Earth monsters in fighting off King Ghidorah. While assisting the JSDF in exterminating the Meganolin in the mine in Kitamatsu, Shigeru Kawamura was sent falling into a cavern underneath Mount Aso by a sudden avalanche. When Shigeru regained consciousness, he found himself in front of a colossal egg, and surrounded by countless Meganolin. Suddenly, the egg began to crack, and from it emerged the hatchling Rodan. The creature broke the rest of its eggshell with its wings and roared loudly before grabbing the Meganolin in its beak and eating them. Horrified by the sight, Shigeru went into shock, and was rescued sometime later by a group of villagers. Shigeru was left in a catatonic state, and the authorities could not gain any information from him regarding what he saw. In the meantime, Rodan began an aerial prowl across the Pacific Ocean, being sighted above China, the Philippines, and Hong Kong. Eyewitnesses couldn't make out what they saw, labeling it simply a UFO. The JSDF tried to take down the UFO when it was sighted over Japan, but Rodan used its supersonic flight to evade its attackers and destroy them. As Rodan's rampage continued, it attacked a young couple near Aso, though its victims did take a partial photograph of the beast before they were killed. When Shigeru emerged from his catatonic state and told his story to the authorities, Dr. Kashiwagi cross-referenced his story with the photograph and a piece of eggshell found near Aso, and determined that the UFO was actually a giant pteranodon. Rodan emerged from the crater of Aso shortly afterward, and began flying to the city of Fukuoka. The JSDF engaged the beast in a dogfight, during which a F-86 Sabre crashed into the beast's wing, injuring it and causing it to lose its supersonic flight. Rodan touched down in Fukuoka, blowing away buildings and vehicles by flapping its wings. The JSDF deployed all its forces to attack Rodan, but they were blown away by the powerful winds. A second Rodan soon appeared over the city, and assisted its mate in fighting off the JSDF before escorting it back to their nest inside Aso. As the two Rodans entered hibernation inside the mountain, the JSDF formed a last-ditch plan to destroy them. They would bombard the volcano with missiles, triggering an eruption and hopefully incinerating both monsters. Several Honest John missile launchers were stationed around Aso, and opened fire on the slopes of the volcano. The missiles triggered a small earthquake, which brought forth lava from the volcano and caused it to erupt. The two Rodans broke out of the mountain and began to fly away, but the intense heat caused one Rodan to fall into the lava below, where it began to burn alive. Unwilling to live without its companion, the other Rodan flew down into the lava flow next to its mate, where the two Rodans appeared to die together.